I always dreamed of my wedding day being perfect. Like every little girl, I imagined the dress, the flowers, the music, the excitement. But most of all, I imagined my sister by my side, standing as my maid of honor. I thought it was going to be one of the happiest days of my life, but little did I know, it would turn into a nightmare. It all started like any other wedding morning, with excitement filling the air. The sun was shining, the venue was beautiful, and everything seemed to fall into place. But as I stood there in my bridal gown, staring at my reflection in the mirror, there was a feeling deep inside me that something wasn't quite right. It was like a cloud hanging over the day. And then I saw her, my sister, Lily, my maid of honor. She was standing in the corner of the room, her eyes cold and distant. She didn't smile as she looked at me, not like she usually would. I knew something was wrong. The tension was palpable. I'd always known my sister and I had our differences, but I never thought she'd do something like this. I couldn't help but wonder, why wasn't she happy for me? When the ceremony started, everything seemed to be going fine at first. I walked down the aisle, the smiles of my friends and family surrounding me. My fiancé, Jake, was standing at the altar, waiting for me with a look of adoration in his eyes. It felt like a fairy tale. But when I turned to look at Lily, she was standing there, barely holding it together. The tension between us was like a rope pulling tighter with every step I took. My heart sank. What was she up to? As the ceremony progressed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't just the way she looked at me. It was how she was acting. She wasn't herself. She wasn't my best friend, my sister. She was distant, cold, like a stranger. And that's when it happened. During the vows, just as Jake and I were about to exchange rings, I noticed something strange. My sister was standing beside me, but her hand was clenched into a fist, her knuckles white. Her expression twisted, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw a flicker of something malicious. Before I could even process it, I saw her move. Lily stepped forward, her hand reaching into the pocket of her dress. In a split second, she pulled out a small, delicate envelope and slipped it into Jake's hand. It happened so quickly that no one else noticed, but I saw it. My heart stopped. I knew instantly that something was wrong. I looked at Jake, my eyes widening in confusion. He caught my gaze and then looked down at the envelope in his hand, his face contorting in confusion. Lily, who had been standing so close to me just moments ago, had now stepped back. She was acting like nothing had happened. I could feel the heat rise in my chest. My sister had just done something that could ruin everything on the most important day of my life. I kept my cool as much as I could, but inside everything was falling apart. What was in that envelope? Why had she given it to him? Was it a cruel joke? Was she trying to sabotage my wedding? I couldn't focus on anything else after that moment. The ceremony was a blur. All I could think about was Lily's cold eyes, her smug little smirk, and the envelope that now felt like a ticking bomb waiting to explode. The rest of the day passed in a fog. It was as if everything around me was spinning while I was stuck in the middle, not knowing what to do next. And then came the reception. The reception was supposed to be a celebration. It was supposed to be a time to relax, let loose, and dance the night away with family and friends. But as soon as I walked into that ballroom, I felt the weight of that envelope hanging over me like a dark cloud. I tried to push it out of my mind, to focus on the happiness around me, but it was impossible. Every glance at Lily made my blood boil. She was acting like nothing had happened, smiling and chatting with guests, while I was falling apart on the inside. Jake was by my side, but he seemed distracted, glancing down at the envelope now and then. Every time I caught him doing it, I felt my stomach churn. What had Lily put in there? What was she trying to say? I needed to know. "Jake?" I said quietly, pulling him aside near the bar. He looked up at me, his face softening. "Hey, are you okay? You've been kind of distant since the ceremony." I forced a smile, not wanting to ruin the evening for him. "Yeah, I'm fine, just a little tired, I guess." But I couldn't stop myself. "Jake, what's in that envelope?" I asked, my voice almost a whisper. His face froze, and for a split second I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt? Regret? I couldn't tell. "Ella, it's nothing, really, just a letter from Lily. It's personal." He paused, his hand tightening around the envelope as if he was protecting it from me. "Personal?" I repeated, my heart racing. "Jake, please just tell me what it is." He shook his head, looking uncomfortable. "It's not what you think. I promise. I'll explain later." But that was it. The way he said it, the way his voice cracked, it was enough to make my heart drop. There was more to this than he was letting on. And I knew Lily, whatever it was, it couldn't be good. I didn't know what to do with myself. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. I pretended to enjoy the music, smiled for the pictures, and tried to act like everything was fine. But inside, I was a mess. I could feel the sting of betrayal in my chest every time I looked at Lily. Every time I saw Jake holding the envelope, as though it was a secret that I didn't deserve to know. Then, around the time the cake was being cut, I noticed something strange. Lily was standing near the dance floor, talking to some of the other guests, but she kept glancing over at me. I could feel her eyes on me, cold, calculating, like she was waiting for the right moment to strike. My gut twisted. What was she planning? What had she done? And then, in a move that sent a shockwave through the room, she stood up and grabbed the microphone. "Attention, everyone," she called, her voice loud and clear, making everyone stop and turn. "I know we're all here to celebrate Ella's big day, but I think it's important for everyone to know a little secret about our bride." My heart stopped. She wasn't going to do this. Not in front of everyone. Jake was looking at her, his face pale, and I saw the panic in his eyes. He started to stand up, but Lily raised her hand, signaling for him to stay seated. "I know you all think Ella's perfect," she continued, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of malice and amusement. "But I think we all deserve to know the truth. After all, she's about to marry him, right?" She gestured at Jake, who was still frozen in place, his face growing redder by the second. I felt the blood rush to my face. "Lily, don't do this," I pleaded, my voice barely above a whisper. But she ignored me, enjoying every second of the attention. She took a deep breath before she spoke again. "Jake, I'm sure you didn't know this, but Ella's not as innocent as she looks. You see, when she and I were younger, we had a bit of a rivalry. But the thing is, there was always something Ella didn't tell you." The room went silent. I could hear the buzz of whispers spreading through the crowd. I could see the confusion in Jake's eyes, but there was no turning back now. "She stole something from me," Lily continued, her voice dripping with venom. "Something that belonged to me and me alone. A man, my boyfriend." My world tilted. The air in the room seemed to evaporate as every single pair of eyes turned to me. What was she talking about? I opened my mouth to defend myself, to stop her, but nothing came out. The words wouldn't come. Lily was going too far. She was turning my wedding into a battlefield, and I was losing. And then came the punchline, the thing that I never saw coming. "Oh, and by the way, Ella," Lily said, her voice low, almost a whisper, "I've always known that Jake wasn't really the one for you, but I couldn't just let him go. So I did what I had to do. He's been mine all along." I stared at her, my mind reeling. Jake? What did she mean? Jake stood up now, his face pale as he slowly approached me. But there was no time to process it. My heart was beating so fast I thought I might pass out. Lily had just exposed the ultimate betrayal, one I wasn't prepared for. This wasn't just about sabotaging my wedding. This was about something far deeper. The room was silent. You could hear a pin drop as the weight of Lily's words sank in. I couldn't breathe. My head was spinning. My sister had just accused me of stealing her boyfriend, but not just any boyfriend. She had said it in front of everyone, on the day I was supposed to marry the love of my life. My thoughts were scattered, my vision blurred, and I could hear Lily's voice echoing in my head over and over again. "Jake's been mine all along." Those words were a dagger, slicing through every shred of trust I had in her, in Jake, in everything. But then, amidst the deafening silence, I noticed something. Jake was standing there, paralyzed. His face was pale, his mouth slightly agape, as if he couldn't process what was happening. He looked at me, then back at Lily, then back at me. His eyes were full of confusion, panic, and, dare I say it, regret? It felt like time slowed down, and all I could do was watch him. Was he really in on this? Was it true? Was Jake really hers all along? Lily's smile was smug, self-satisfied. She was getting exactly what she wanted: attention, chaos, and the upper hand. But what she didn't realize was that she had just opened the door to something much bigger than she could have imagined. I couldn't just stand there anymore. This wasn't just about my wedding day being ruined. It was about the truth, about what I deserved to know. And if I was going to get the truth, I was going to get it now. "Lily, enough," I said, my voice shaking but firm. I took a step toward her, my hands trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Enough of this drama. Enough of your lies. You've been trying to destroy me for as long as I can remember, and I'm not going to stand here and let you ruin this day." She didn't flinch. Her smile only grew wider. "Oh, Ella, I'm just telling the truth. Don't be mad at me. Be mad at yourself. You're the one who stole him." She flicked her hair back, looking like she was relishing every moment. "Don't even think for a second that you can make me feel guilty," I snapped, my heart pounding. "If anyone has reason to be mad, it's me. For years, I've been putting up with your jealousy, your games, and now you're trying to ruin the happiest day of my life? You think you can just walk in here, tear everything apart, and then sit back and act like it's your victory? I don't think so." I could see her mask crack for just a second. Her expression flickered, her eyes betraying a hint of doubt. She wasn't used to being confronted like this. She was used to getting her way, always playing the victim, always playing the role of the poor, misunderstood sister. But now, for the first time, she wasn't in control. Jake stepped forward, trying to speak, but I cut him off. "Don't you dare say a word. Not after everything you've let happen today. Don't you dare try to explain yourself to me. You've been standing there pretending you didn't know what was going on, but you knew. You knew exactly what she was doing. My voice was rising, and I didn't care. I couldn't care. You're as much a part of this as she is. Jake's face flushed, and I could see the panic spreading across him. He opened his mouth to speak again, but I couldn't let him. I wasn't giving him the chance to make excuses. I wasn't going to let either of them manipulate me anymore. I turned to the guests, all still standing in shock, watching this unfold in front of them. You're all witnessing this, aren't you? I said, raising my voice just a little. This is what betrayal looks like. This is what it feels like. The people you love most, the ones you trust the most, are capable of destroying you without a second thought. I let those words hang in the air for a moment. My wedding day, a day I had dreamed about since I was little, was now a battlefield. But this wasn't the kind of fight I was going to lose. Lily finally stopped smirking. She looked genuinely taken aback by my words. Ella, you don't understand. No, you don't understand, Lily. I cut her off. I understand perfectly. I've spent my life trying to keep up with your games, trying to make everyone happy. And what did it get me? This. You think I would have ever chosen you over Jake? You think I would have ever wanted to hurt you? But now you've made your choice. And I'm not going to stand by while you tear everything apart. The room was still, except for the low murmurs of the guests. Lily and Jake were both staring at me, but there was no turning back. I'm done, I said, turning to Jake, finally meeting his eyes. I'm done with all of it. I won't stand here and let you both destroy me for the sake of your twisted games. I thought I was marrying the love of my life, but I was wrong. It was all a lie. And for that, you'll both have to live with the consequences. Lily's eyes flickered with something. Fear. It was fleeting, but I saw it. For the first time, she wasn't in control. I walked away, not looking back, but every step felt like the weight of the world being lifted off my shoulders. I had been betrayed, humiliated, but I wasn't going to let them take me down. Not now, not ever. And as I reached the back of the venue, I realized something. It wasn't about the wedding anymore. It wasn't about what they had done to me. It was about me. It was about the woman I had just become. The one who wouldn't be pushed around, who wouldn't settle for less. This was my moment, and nothing was going to ruin it. I could hear the murmurs from the reception hall, the shocked gasps and whispers from the guests. But I didn't care. I walked away from the chaos, my heart pounding, adrenaline surging through me. I had just exposed my sister's betrayal and put an end to the charade that had been my relationship with Jake. But even as I stepped away, I knew I wasn't done. The sting of betrayal still lingered, and I had unfinished business. I paced outside the venue, trying to calm myself down. My hands were trembling, and my mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. But there was one thing I knew for sure. I couldn't just walk away from this. Not now. Not after everything they had taken from me. If I was going to leave this situation behind, I needed closure, and it wasn't going to come from running away. I wasn't that girl anymore. Just as I took a deep breath, I heard footsteps approaching. I turned to see Jake standing in front of me, looking every bit as torn and confused as he had earlier. His face was pale, his brow furrowed in distress. He looked like a man on the verge of a breakdown, but he wasn't going to get sympathy from me. Not today. Not after everything he had put me through. Ella, please, he said softly, his voice pleading. I never wanted this to happen, I swear. I didn't want to hurt you. I stared at him, feeling a coldness wash over me. He was still trying to justify his actions, still trying to play the victim. Don't act like you're the victim here, Jake, I said, my voice colder than I intended. You had a choice. You could have told me the truth from the beginning. You could have been honest. But instead, you let my sister manipulate you. And for what? For your own selfishness? I didn't know it would go this far, he stammered, running his hands through his hair. I didn't know she was going to do that. She manipulated me, Ella. She kept saying you would never understand, that you'd never forgive me. I took a deep breath, my emotions threatening to overwhelm me, but I couldn't let them show. I had to stay strong. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about me, about standing up for myself, about walking away with my dignity intact. Do you think I care about your excuses, Jake? Do you think I'm going to sit here and let you make up for everything you've done? I trusted you. I loved you. But you chose her over me. And you know what? That's fine. I don't need either of you. His face fell, the realization hitting him hard. He looked like a man who had lost everything. And maybe, for once, he was finally understanding the gravity of his actions. But it was too late. The moment he had chosen my sister over me was the moment he lost my trust forever. There was no coming back from this. You don't get it, Ella, he whispered, his eyes full of regret. I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen. But I love you, and I always will. Please, just let me make it right. I stepped back, shaking my head. Love me? Is that what you call it? Because if that's love, then I don't want any part of it. My voice cracked with emotion, but I quickly composed myself. You don't get to walk back into my life like nothing happened. You betrayed me, and you betrayed my sister. You think I'm just going to forgive you because you're sorry? He looked desperate now, his eyes pleading for a second chance. But I didn't want to hear it anymore. He wasn't the man I thought he was. And after today, I was done pretending. You don't deserve my forgiveness, Jake. You don't deserve any part of me, I said, my voice firm, unwavering. I've wasted enough time trying to fix things that were never broken in the first place. I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams, but all I've been doing is holding on to a lie. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I had cried enough for this relationship. Now it was time to walk away with my head held high. I hope one day you realize what you've lost. I hope one day you look back and regret your decisions. But it won't matter to me. I'm done. And with those words, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there in the cold. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The closure I had been searching for had been delivered, and it didn't matter what Jake or Lily thought anymore. The truth was out. My wedding had been ruined, but my life was still mine to control. As I walked away from that place, my wedding venue, the place where my dreams had been shattered, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. The weight of betrayal was still heavy in my chest, but I was no longer letting it hold me back. I had taken back my power, and I was moving forward. I didn't know where the road would lead, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let anyone, no one, define me anymore. This was my story now, and I was ready to write the next chapter. The days after the wedding were a blur. A mix of emotions flooded through me: relief, anger, sadness, and even a strange sense of clarity. I had never imagined my wedding day would end like that. But as the chaos settled, something inside me shifted. It wasn't the ending I had planned, but it was the beginning of something far more important. Something I had been neglecting for too long, myself. The aftermath of the disaster still weighed on my mind. My sister, Lily, had always been a part of my life. We had been close, at least, that's what I thought. But now I realized she had always been playing a game. She had wanted what was mine, and she didn't care who she hurt to get it. I had trusted her, loved her, and for the first time in my life I saw her for who she really was. And Jake, well, he wasn't much better. For years I had seen him as the love of my life. I thought we were perfect together. But now I couldn't help but wonder if I had been blinded by my own need to be loved. The truth was, I had allowed him to manipulate me just as much as Lily had. I had to face the fact that their actions weren't an isolated incident. They had both been playing me for fools for far too long. I didn't want to feel sorry for myself. I didn't want to wallow in the mess they had made of my wedding day. No, I was going to take back control. The life I had envisioned for myself might not be the same as it was before, but that didn't mean it was over. It was just the beginning of something better. I spent the next few days reflecting. I realized I needed time to heal, to find my strength again. But more than that, I needed to start focusing on what I wanted, not what anyone else expected from me. I had spent too long living for others, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to please everyone around me. But I couldn't keep doing that. I had to rebuild myself. For me, it was a difficult process. I let myself feel the anger, the sadness, the confusion. I let myself grieve for the life I had thought I would have. But then I remembered something important. I wasn't the victim anymore. I had been given the opportunity to take control, to choose the path forward, and I wasn't going to let anyone stop me from moving forward. I focused on my business. I'd always been passionate about what I did, but in the past, I had let distractions, relationships, expectations, obligations get in the way. Now I poured my energy into making my business the best it could be. I hired a small team, reached out to potential clients, and spent hours refining my work. Slowly but surely, I built something I could be proud of. It wasn't about making money. It was about proving to myself that I could succeed on my own terms. As the weeks passed, I noticed a change in myself. I felt more grounded. I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore, wondering if I was making the right decisions. I was confident in my choices, and that confidence spilled over into everything I did. And then one afternoon, I got a call. It was from a potential investor, a major player in the industry I was working in. They had seen my work, they loved what I was doing, and they wanted to meet with me. The opportunity was huge. It was the kind of break I had always hoped for, but never thought I'd get. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that this was the payoff. Not the revenge, not the drama, not the chaos that had unfolded, but this. This was what I had worked so hard for. I met with the investor the following week. The meeting went better than I could have imagined. By the end of it, they were offering me not only the support I needed to expand my business, but a partnership that could take everything to the next level. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. As I left the meeting, I couldn't help but smile. I had done it. I had turned the tables. I had taken the pain, the betrayal, the heartache, and turned it into something beautiful. I was no longer the girl who had been humiliated at her wedding. I wasn't the girl who had been betrayed by her sister and her fiancé. I wasn't even the girl who had been left behind. I was Ella, the woman who had built something from the ashes, the woman who had taken back her life and her power. And as I stood on the precipice of this new chapter, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't looking back anymore. There would be more challenges, of course, more hurdles to jump over, more people to prove wrong. But now I was ready. I was stronger than I had ever been, and nothing and no one could stop me. In the end, the most important lesson I learned wasn't just about revenge or payback. It was about strength, the strength to walk away, the strength to rebuild, and the strength to choose your own path, no matter how hard it gets. Because in the end, you are the one who holds the pen. You are the one who decides your story. As the weeks passed, I felt the weight of everything begin to lift. I had faced the heartbreak, the humiliation, the betrayal, and yet here I was, standing stronger than ever before. It was a strange feeling, one I wasn't used to. For so long, I had been defined by my relationship with Jake, by my role as the loving sister, the doting fiancé, the perfect bride. But now I was just me. No labels, no expectations. Just Ella, the woman who had reclaimed her life. I was finally able to focus on what mattered most, my future. I threw myself into my business even more, working long hours, networking with new clients, and finding creative ways to expand. Slowly, I began to see the rewards of my hard work. Every small victory, every contract I signed, every new connection I made was a reminder of how far I had come. I was no longer at the mercy of anyone's expectations. I didn't have to apologize for my decisions, for the way I had chosen to live my life. I had taken control, and it felt empowering in a way I had never experienced before. For the first time in years, I woke up every morning with a sense of purpose, knowing that I was building something real, something that would last. But as the business flourished, I couldn't ignore the emptiness that sometimes crept in. Despite all my successes, I still felt like something was missing. Not just in my professional life, but in my personal life as well. I had shut out the noise, the distractions, but there were times when I longed for genuine connection. I missed the feeling of being loved, of having someone by my side to share my victories with. I had been through so much, and part of me wanted to believe that I could still find happiness, that I could still open my heart to someone. It wasn't easy. Trust didn't come overnight, and the idea of opening up to someone again felt like a distant dream. But as I continued to grow, I realized that the most important relationship I needed to nurture was the one with myself. I couldn't expect someone else to love me until I learned to truly love and accept myself. That's when I started to take more time for myself. I went on trips by myself, explored new places, and met new people. I took art classes, spent weekends hiking in the mountains, and started focusing on hobbies I had long neglected. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty for spending time alone. I didn't feel like I had to justify my choices. It was freeing, to say the least. And then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. I was at a local coffee shop, finishing up some work, when a familiar face walked in. It was Caleb, an old friend from college. We had lost touch over the years, but we always got along well. He was the kind of guy who could make me laugh, who never took life too seriously. He walked over to my table, and I couldn't help but smile. Ella, it's been ages, Caleb said, pulling up a chair. Mind if I join you? Of course, I replied, surprised but genuinely happy to see him. We talked for hours, catching up on everything. I told him about the chaos with Jake, about how everything had fallen apart, and how I had rebuilt my life from the ground up. He listened intently, offering support and encouragement. It felt good to share my story with someone who didn't judge me, someone who saw me for who I was, not for the mistakes I had made or the heartbreak I had endured. As the conversation turned lighter, I realized something. I could do this. I could let someone back into my life. Not because I needed them, but because I wanted to. I had spent so long trying to prove that I could do it all alone. But Caleb made me realize that it wasn't weakness to seek connection. It was strength. I didn't need anyone to complete me, but having someone who truly saw me, who accepted me for who I was, could be a gift. Over the next few weeks, Caleb and I spent more time together. We went to dinner, saw movies, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. There was something comforting about him, a sense of familiarity and warmth that I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't like what I had with Jake, and that was exactly what I needed. It was real, easy, and safe. But as our connection grew stronger, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I had come. In the past, I had been consumed by the need to have someone by my side, to have the perfect relationship. But now I realized that I didn't need anyone to complete me. I had already found my own worth, and the right person would complement my life, not define it. One evening, Caleb and I were sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset. It was quiet, peaceful. He turned to me, his expression serious for the first time that day. "I've been thinking about something," he said, his voice soft. "I know we've just reconnected, and I'm not rushing anything, but I want you to know that I really admire you, Ella. You're strong, independent, and you've been through a lot. I just want you to know that I'm here for you, whatever that means." I looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his words, and for the first time in months, I felt something I had been missing. Hope. Hope that love, real love, was possible again. But more than that, I realized that I didn't need to rush. I could take my time. I didn't need a fairy tale. I just needed something real. We sat there in silence, and I smiled to myself. The future wasn't certain, but it was mine to shape. I had come through the hardest chapter of my life, and I was stronger for it. Now I was ready to embrace whatever came next, with my head held high and my heart open to new possibilities. Time passed, and with each passing day, I found myself embracing this new version of life. The woman I had become wasn't just someone who had survived heartbreak and betrayal. She was someone who had found peace and purpose in her own journey. I was no longer waiting for validation from others. I had learned that the most important thing in life is to believe in yourself, to stand firm in your own truth, and to never settle for anything less than what you truly deserve. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I realized something powerful. What had initially felt like my greatest loss, my wedding day, my sister's betrayal, and the heartache of the broken relationship, had actually been the catalyst for something much bigger. The chaos, the pain, and the struggles I had endured had pushed me to grow, to evolve, and to find the strength I never knew I had. I had spent so much of my life trying to please everyone, trying to be the perfect daughter, the perfect sister, the perfect partner. But none of that mattered if I wasn't true to myself. When I let go of the expectations others had placed on me, when I stopped trying to hold everything together, I found freedom. Jake and Lily, they were in the past. The betrayal and hurt they caused me no longer defined me. It was painful, yes, but I wasn't going to let them steal any more of my happiness. The pain would always be a part of me, but it was no longer my focus. My focus was on the future I was creating for myself, on building a life filled with love, success, and peace. And Caleb? He wasn't the love story I had once envisioned for myself, but he was something far better. He was a reminder that life isn't about finding perfection. It's about finding someone who supports you, who respects you, and who encourages you to be your best self. With him, I didn't need to play a role or fit into a mold. I was simply Ella, and that was enough. And maybe, just maybe, that was the kind of love I needed all along. I found myself smiling more these days, not because everything was perfect, but because I had finally accepted that perfection wasn't the goal. Life was messy, and that was okay. It was about embracing the moments of joy, the moments of struggle, and the moments of growth. Every step I took was another reminder that I was in control. As I moved forward, I began to realize that true victory wasn't about seeking revenge or getting back at the people who wronged me. It wasn't about proving that I could make them regret their actions. True victory was about reclaiming my own power and living my life on my terms. That was the real payback. Being able to look in the mirror and say, I did this for me. I built this. The woman I had become wasn't just a survivor. She was a fighter, a creator, and someone who would no longer settle for anything less than what she deserved. I wasn't waiting for my happy ending anymore. I was making it. If you've been inspired by this story of strength, betrayal, and redemption, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated with more stories of personal growth and triumph over adversity. You won't want to miss what comes next. More lessons on overcoming life's biggest challenges and finding your own path to happiness. Remember, no matter what you're going through, you hold the power to change your story. It's never too late to reclaim your life and start writing your own happy ending.